In the heart of the frozen Arctic, surviving means more than braving sub-zero temperatures. It means sharing space with one of the most powerful predators on Earth, the polar bear. Without the right protection, surviving an encounter with one of these massive carnivores drops to under 10%. While some believe polar bears tend to shy away from humans, the truth is their behavior becomes dangerously unpredictable when they're hungry or feel cornered. For generations, indigenous groups like the Inuit have learned how to coexist with these animals. Their survival skills, rooted in deep understanding and respect for polar bears, are passed down through centuries of lived experience. This wisdom forms a key part of everyday life in the Arctic, yet remains largely unknown to much of the outside world. Today, around 22,000 to 31,000 polar bears still roam the Arctic landscape. The Canadian Arctic holds the largest population, with roughly 16,000 bears traversing the coastal regions and floating sea ice. At the same time, about 65,000 Inuit people live across Canada's north in 53 communities, many of them within prime polar bear territory. As their worlds intersect, close encounters are inevitable. In Nunavut alone, 300 to 400 interactions are reported each year, though the real number is likely even higher. Imagine living in a town where spotting a polar bear near your doorstep isn't rare, it's part of life. That's the reality for the people of Arviat, a coastal Inuit community along Hudson Bay. During the months when the sea is ice-free, bear sightings happen almost weekly. As Arctic sea ice continues to retreat, polar bears are spending more time on land, and their paths increasingly lead them into human territory. Years ago, a small village might have experienced just 20 or 30 bear encounters in a year. Now, those numbers have surged, with some areas reporting several hundred annually. This shift has made it even more important to understand polar bear behavior. Long before firearms or electric deterrents existed, the Inuit relied on sharp instincts and deep-rooted knowledge. They survived not by overpowering bears, but by studying their habits and recognizing their intelligence, an approach that made coexisting possible in a land where survival depends on understanding nature. In the unforgiving Arctic, the Inuit survived among polar bears not through force, but through a remarkable understanding of the land and its creatures. Their greatest defense wasn't a weapon. It was the ability to detect a polar bear before it ever saw them. Hunters became experts in reading the wind, often by simply wetting a fingertip to catch even the faintest shift in direction. They also built small snow mounds to observe how loose snow scattered in the breeze, revealing hidden air movements that carried a bear's scent. One elder recalled how his father sensed a polar bear from over 1¼ miles away just by observing these subtle changes. Tracking was another critical survival skill. Where most would see only paw prints, Inuit hunters read an entire story. A deep impression signaled a large bear. A straight trail meant the bear was likely hunting. Wandering, looping tracks. The bear was likely aimless. As one hunter put it, the snow is like a newspaper if you know how to read it. They even learned to interpret the sounds of a bear breathing. A calm, low breath hinted at cautious curiosity. Shallow, rapid breathing often meant fear and retreat. But a deep growl? That was a clear warning to take immediate action. These interpretations became so reliable that today's polar bear researchers have adopted parts of this traditional knowledge into their own fieldwork. Still, no matter how skilled the detection, avoiding bears wasn't always possible. The Inuit knew that smell could give them away. A polar bear's nose can detect a seal from 20 miles off, and cooking food from even farther. To minimize risk, food was carefully handled and stored, often away from living spaces, and never left exposed. In this harsh world, staying invisible and unsmelled wasn't just smart. It was the difference between life and death. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. When you subscribe, YouTube is more likely to recommend this kind of content to others who enjoy it too. just hit that red subscribe button below. It's quick, it's free, and it really helps the channel grow. In the Arctic, where life hangs in a delicate balance, proper food storage was a matter of survival. For the Inuit and for the polar bears always searching for a meal, storing meat close to living spaces was never an option. Instead, the Inuit created dedicated food caches located downwind from their camps, keeping their scent away from curious predators. These caches were often elevated using platforms made from blocks of ice, raising them above the reach of wandering bears. To further protect their supplies, some communities maintained multiple storage sites, ensuring a single loss wouldn't leave them without food. Seal oil lamps, essential for heat and light, brought another risk. Their rich scent could travel miles, catching the attention of hungry bears. To counter this, the Inuit strategically placed lamps where the prevailing winds would carry the scent away from their homes. During high-risk seasons, they even built snow-block wind barriers to break up scent trails and confuse incoming bears. Cooking also required smart planning. Meals were often prepared at a distance from the main shelter, sometimes in enclosed snow kitchens with ventilation tunnels that allowed cooking smells to escape without spreading. A clever trick involved burning specific types of moss that gave off smoke capable of masking food odors. To preserve meat without drawing attention, the Inuit used stone storage pits packed with snow to trap scent and prevent it from drifting. One elder put it best: you have to outthink a bear's nose. But safety didn't stop with food. Shelter needed to offer protection too. The Inuit mastered the craft of building durable homes using snow and ice. The igloo wasn't just warm, it was strong enough to hold the weight of a full-grown polar bear. Its rounded shape added to its strength, while the entry tunnel was intentionally built low and narrow, making it physically impossible for a bear to crawl inside. These details, born from generations of experience, made the difference between vulnerability and safety in a world where danger could arrive quietly on the wind. Some Inuit igloos were more than just shelters. They were fortresses of clever design. Crafted with multiple chambers and sharp turns, these maze-like structures confused polar bears that might try to force their way inside. Every curve and wall served a purpose, buying precious time or deterring an animal entirely. Just as important was the placement of camps. The Inuit often chose higher ground, offering clear sight lines for spotting approaching threats. They also positioned their settlements in places where prevailing winds carried their scent away from areas known to be frequented by polar bears. Natural ice ridges, which bears typically avoided due to difficult footing, offered another layer of protection. Their ingenuity didn't stop at shelter placement. The Inuit even transformed snow into an early warning system. By packing snow differently throughout their camp, they created paths with unique crunching sounds. Trails near sleeping areas were packed to create louder, more distinct sounds, alerting sleepers the moment something approached, even in total darkness. In areas where polar bear encounters were frequent, night watches became a part of life. But these shifts weren't spent in boredom. Night watchers told stories, carved tools, and shared wisdom about polar bear behavior, keeping minds sharp while staying alert. These sentinels took position in specially built ice shelters with wide views and signals ready to alert the community at the first sign of danger. As one hunter humorously put it, "The night watch was our first form of late-night television." Still, when all precautions failed and a polar bear advanced, the Inuit were never unprepared. Long before rifles, they crafted powerful weapons using the limited materials at hand. One of the most effective was the nuluk, a polar bear spear measuring about 7 feet long. Built from driftwood or whalebone, the shaft remained flexible and strong in freezing conditions. The spearhead, carved from walrus ivory or bone, included barbs designed to embed and break off, causing heavy bleeding and creating a clear trail. The nuluk was also modular. Hunters carried interchangeable heads for different threats and could detach the shaft if a bear grabbed it, leaving the barbed head inside while escaping to safety. This brilliant design, rooted in experience and survival, was proof of the Inuits' deep ingenuity in one of the world's harshest environments. For the Inuit, sled dogs were more than transportation. They were trusted sentinels in a world where danger could appear silently over the horizon. Trained to sense threats far earlier than any human could, these loyal animals acted as the first line of defense against polar bears. When a bear drew near, the dogs would bark fiercely and form a protective ring around their people, their aggression often enough to make a bear back off. Their noses were so refined that they could even tell the difference between male and female bears, alerting their owners with distinct signals depending on who was nearby. But dogs weren't the only defense. The Inuit engineered clever systems to detect and slow down predators. Rattling strings of hollowed seal bones, strung between camps, would jingle in the wind or clatter when disturbed, acting as natural alarm lines. Passageways made from blocks of ice forced any charging bear to move more slowly, giving defenders precious seconds to respond. In such brutal cold, a reliable weapon could mean the difference between life and death. Spear shafts were routinely treated with seal oil to prevent them from drying out and cracking. Spare components were stored in insulated snow caches to prevent freezing damage. When metal tools entered Inuit life through trade, new challenges followed. Cold temperatures made metal brittle, so spearheads were wrapped in sealskin to keep them flexible and functional. As one hunter said, "In the Arctic, a weapon is only as useful as your care for it." Adaptability was central to survival. The Inuit knew polar bear behavior changed with the seasons. Spring was especially dangerous. After a long winter with little to eat, bears came out hungry and bold, increasing the likelihood of conflict. The Inuit adapted with strict seasonal strategies, limiting travel to daylight hours, never venturing out alone, and constantly staying alert. Every outing was timed and calculated. One elder's records revealed that nearly 40% of serious polar bear confrontations happened during spring, earning it a chilling name: the time of hungry shadows. It was a season when every whisper in the wind could be a warning and every snow crunch might be a life or death signal. With summer's arrival came a shift in danger. As sea ice melted, polar bears were forced onto land, leading to more encounters near coastal camps. To avoid these risky areas, the Inuit moved their settlements farther inland, away from shorelines where hungry bears prowled for food. Travel routes were thoughtfully planned to steer clear of known bear dens and feeding spots. Hunting practices adjusted too, rather than competing with bears for seals near the ice edges. The Inuit focused on inland game like caribou and relied more on fishing, following the seasonal flow of resources. When fall returned, polar bears became more aggressive, desperate to bulk up before the long Arctic winter. The Inuit had long observed the animals' seasonal migration and hunting paths, memorizing the yearly rhythms of bear behavior. They built cairns, rock piles placed in strategic spots, to warn travelers of dangerous zones ahead. Over generations, these stone markers became part of a vital geographic warning system. Alongside them, Inuit families kept bear calendars, hand-recorded logs of when and where bears had been seen. These records helped forecast future bear activity and shaped safe routes across the land. Winter, however, brought a unique set of challenges. With constant darkness, visibility dropped to almost nothing. Yet the Inuit had ways of navigating even these conditions. By stepping carefully and reading the snow's texture with their feet, they could detect pressure ridges, prime hunting grounds for polar bears stalking seals. Some natural ice formations acted like acoustic amplifiers, enhancing distant sounds. By camping near these sound-reflecting zones, the Inuit could listen for the soft approach of a bear long before it arrived. To make movement more visible in the darkness, hunters built snow walls around their camps. These acted like reflectors, capturing faint moonlight or starlight and casting enough contrast to catch movement nearby. The brilliance of these seasonal strategies wasn't just in their effectiveness, it was in how they endured. Every new generation added insight and experience, building a deep cultural memory that turned polar bear behavior into a well-understood part of daily survival. For the Inuit, polar bear safety was never left to chance or to individuals. It was a shared duty woven into every aspect of village life. Settlements were thoughtfully arranged with security in mind. Homes weren't scattered randomly, but formed in circular layouts, allowing each household a clear view of its neighbors and eliminating blind spots where bears could approach unnoticed. Food caches were kept on the outer edges of camp, far from daily life, while communal areas were placed at the center, offering children a protected space to play and gather. Even in heavy snow, escape paths were kept open and clearly marked, ensuring no one would be cornered in a crisis. Communication was another pillar of their defense. The Inuit developed a sound-based warning system using drum beats and vocal alerts. 3 sharp drum beats signaled a distant bear, calling for caution, while a continuous rhythm warned of immediate danger and prompted swift action. Children learned these cues early on. One elder joked, "Our kids could run for cover before they learned to walk." When bears needed to be driven away, it was never a solo effort. Inuit hunters coordinated in teams, using well-practiced formations to push bears away from camp. Skilled hunters led the effort, while others used whistles and hand signs to maintain communication. Young runners relayed messages across the team, making sure everyone moved as one. This unity made the defense stronger and emphasized that survival was a community effort. What truly stood out was how this life-saving knowledge was passed on. The Inuit didn't rely on fear, they taught through play. Kids engaged in tracking games, spotting simulated bear tracks in the snow, or competing to test wind direction. One game blindfolded children and had them identify different warning sounds, helping them react on instinct if danger struck. These fun yet serious activities ensured that essential survival skills became second nature. The Inuits' ability to coexist with polar bears wasn't about domination, it was about deep understanding. Centuries of learning, adapting, and respecting nature gave them the tools to live safely alongside one of the Arctic's top predators. Their wisdom reveals that in the harshest conditions, survival is built not just on strength, but on shared knowledge, collaboration, and an enduring relationship with the land. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and hit that like button, drop a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. It helps more than you think and lets me know you're enjoying the journey. See you in the next video.